Hello and welcome to this lesson where we will be concluding the chapter with regards to Azure Active Directory Sync or Microsoft Entra Connect. Now, we have set up Azure AD Sync and we've seen how it works connecting on-prem servers to online cloud services. Now, as a system administrator, you need to be familiar with how to find out if there's a problem with that link, that bridge. So what are some of the things that you can do, or how would you know if their sync is not working and the data is not being pushed from Active Directory to Azure Active Directory in the cloud? That's the purpose of this lesson. So you can see that I have my VirtualBox Manager running, and I have Server 2019 powered off. So that means the server is offline and it's not running, and any services that it's normally available for it to provide will not be running. So this has been powered off for a couple of days just to show how to go about this lesson. Now I'm just going to go into my admin center, and in my Microsoft 365 admin center, in my home page, we have this section that gives some information about Microsoft Entra Connect. Now you can see that it has a sync status, last synced more than 3 days ago, and password sync. It's not working at the moment. There has been no recent synchronization as compared to previously, when we should be seeing information here like sync status last sync, like say 8 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. So when you're a system administrator and you're faced with this problem, you need to be familiar with what to do next. How can you find more information on what's going on? Obviously, common sense should tell you that when the status is beyond what the time limit should be, then it probably means that there's no communication between your on-premise server to the cloud services. So one way or the other, it could be that there could be something wrong with your server. So before we continue, another way you would know that you have a problem with your Azure AD syncing with on-prem services is your admin email account will normally be getting email alerts like this. For instance, I received this email alert on Tuesday, and it says alert for DC01. That's the name of our domain controller, which is our server 2019, which is powered off. You're receiving this email because we have detected a critical alert on one of your Azure AD Sync service instances, right? So the health service data is not up to date, and it's just basically telling you that, look, we can't talk to this server. The cloud services can't talk to this server. So there's a problem. Another alert came the next day, which is giving an alert from the cloud services point of view to say, look, this is not syncing with on-premise services. So that's a way that you would know that there's a problem. Now, when you have a problem, normally the common place to go to resolve or to see more information about the errors that you're getting is to go through the Microsoft Entra Connect Health system. Now, at this point, all these should be things that should be second nature to you. Obviously, if you see that error, one of the things you doubly check is to make sure that can you connect the server? Is the server online? Can you ping the server? And even if you can ping the server and you go onto the server, which we would have a look in a moment, is the Azure AD service running, and how to validate that. Do you need to just go through the configuration again to refresh the installation? So in order to go to the Microsoft Entra Connect Health Center, you normally need to do that from going to your Azure portal. To get to your Azure portal or Microsoft Entra Identity, normally you can find a shortcut in your admin center, and you go to all admin centers and you go to Identity. That would bring you to this page where normally you would have your home. And in this page, which is your tenant, normally you would go to Identity and you scroll down and you go to Microsoft Entra Connect. Normally it will show us a short menu, but when you go to show more, you go to Microsoft Entra Connect. And then that will bring you to this page. That will bring you to this page where you have, at the left pane, you have sync errors and sync services. Sync errors, obviously, there's nothing to report here because there's no connection to the on-premise server. When you go to sync services, you have an alert here that says this service name is having these error. That's the status. When you go into it, it gives you information about the sync error. Latest data not available. The last export was this date, and today's date is 17th. So you can see that is for the past 3-4 days, there hasn't been any sync activity between the on-premise server and the service online. So that should tell you that there's a problem, that the server is probably offline. Obviously, in my case, in order to replicate this problem, I had deliberately turned off the server, right? So that's one way to quickly find out if you have a problem with your Azure AD connection. A couple of things that we also need to double check on is when you are in the health services, how do you, at this point, you know that you've established that is the last export date is this date. So if you're working and you get this alert, say at a specific time, and you go through this route and you get here and you realize what the last export was, then you can make the difference to know that, okay, the server has probably been down for this number of hours or this number of minutes, and then you need to make sure that you can go back to pinging or trying to connect to the server. So the overview of this page showing that our server is unhealthy. When I click into it, it gives us more information, and it says there's one alert that's active that's yet to be resolved. So how do we resolve this then? Obviously, the server is offline. So what we're going to do is we're just going to power on the server. So the server is back up and running, and you can see the time and date is the same as this time. And we just need to give it a few seconds. Since it's running now, all the services that are being served by this server should be back online. And implicitly, that would mean that the sync service between on-premise server and the cloud services should resume. So in a few minutes, we're just going to double check in Azure to see in the Connect Center, in the Microsoft Entra Connect Health Center, has it showed that is back online? Is it healthy now? So we'll just check that in 2 seconds. I am just going to minimize this as it's still running, and we'll just refresh this page. It's saying it's still active, not up to date. Okay, so this is more details about the error, alert name, and the date. Okay, just go back to the admin center, refresh this page. Okay, so I went to the admin center and I just refreshed the page, and you can see that it now has its health status ticked green. Last sync 0 minutes ago, and password recent synchronization shows tick as well. So we're just going to go back to the sync and alert. We just refresh this page as well, and now we have this active alert, which shows the error type, and it shows the scope, which is the server. And the alert was originally raised at this date, and now we have a new last detected date, which is sometime today. Okay, so basically this is how you go about troubleshooting your Azure AD sync problems. It might take a few minutes for the whole Microsoft services to realize that this is all back up and running. But we have a sign here from this that everything is back up and running. I'll just go home. I'll come out of this. I will go back to identity, go back to Connect Health, and I would go to Connect Sync, and go to Microsoft Entra Health, and we'll go to Sync Errors. yeah, it might take a couple of minutes for it to propagate across. Lacks the exporter date. Obviously, you can see that this hasn't updated yet, but at some stage, all this will resolve itself. Resolve from the last 24 hours. This status should also change at some stage. So that's basically how you go about this. I'll leave you to this, and basically, when you're asked an interview question on things to do with what happens when there is a disruption in the connection between your on-prem server and your Azure cloud services, this is how you go about it from a practical point of view. I'll see you in the next video where we'll start finally talking about group policies. Thanks.